Now, we did get emails about the last segment of AEW. This person says it was awesome. Jericho Moxley did a great job playing with the emotions of the crowd to the point where they started to chant, "You sold out" to Moxley. I got to say that watching that segment last night, I mean, I've said this 1,000 times about wrestling. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody. Let me start over again. There are people that think that the only good wrestling is when you do a swerve, okay? These people are in the minority, and it's not true, okay? Every now and then, a well-booked swerve is great. But in general, some of the best wrestling, some of the best match outcomes, some of the best finishes, it's what you knew was going to happen because it made sense. And when I watched that segment last night, I mean, myself personally, there was not one moment in that where I thought that at the end of it, Moxley wasn't going to attack and humiliate Chris Jericho. Like, it was so obvious. But that's not a bad thing at all. That's a great thing. Because when you're thinking in that direction and you're watching it, and there's that brief moment where Moxley looks in the camera and he winks, and like, you know it's coming. And that makes the whole thing even better when it happens, okay? But for whatever reason, I would like to come on here and say that everybody knew how this was going to end. But in fact, I can't, because the crowd did chant, "You sold out" at Jon Moxley. I was dying. Like, you thought that he joined the Inner Circle? I mean, that's fine. I mean, if you thought he joined the Inner Circle and then to you it was a swerve and you loved it, that's great, okay? But to me, not for 1 second did I think that he was actually joining. And we've seen this angle a million times, but Jericho and Moxley and the Spanish god, Sammy Guevara, like every single one of them, they were so great in this segment that even though it was something you've seen a million times, I just loved it. And I thought that Moxley's delivery at the end, when he just matter-of-fact announced, "I was kidding. I'm not joining your group. It's a stupid group." I was dying. He was so good in this segment. Moxley was so good because, you know, Moxley's got a funny side to him. But in WWE, it was like they just went all the way in that direction. Like he was just a comedy goof. And so, like, he was just dead. He was DOA in WWE by the end. But in this, like, he had a chance to show a little bit of that side. He got to do a delivery of a line that made you laugh. But then he just ran roughshod. And at no point in this was he like a comedy character. He was like, I hate to say this, but I've been watching a lot of him lately. He was Stone Cold Steve Austin, because Austin had that funny side about him where he'd lead the heel on into thinking that he was going to be their friend, or he was really going to drink beer with them this time. He wasn't going to pull the football away. But then, of course, at the end, he got his funny line in, he hit the stunner, he left him laying, and he went. It was just so great. I loved that segment.
It's, this is the guy, ironically, when he was on Steve Austin's show, that when he spectacularly failed on there for so many, that a lot of his supporters, including me, kind of looked at and went, well, he's in this scenario, in this situation, he's not going to be able to be him. In AEW, he can be more him, and we're getting more of Jon Moxley the way it should be, as Dean Ambrose gets shaken off of him. The one thing I think about the crowd response is, though, and this is the big difference between Wednesday of both shows in comparison to Raw and to SmackDown, is those fans didn't really believe it, but they knew their role and to play along. And I'm not saying that AEW fans do this in lockstep, but they are amped up and they know what to respond for. And the same is the case for NXT, I think, too. Most of the time, they know how to respond and what works for the show that's taking place in the ring. And they want to be a part of that show, and they want to play along with it. And I think that's why you got those chants of "you sold out." I don't think anybody believed that Jon Moxley all of a sudden was going to go driving off in the, let's split the difference, $900,000 car,
now
$875,000.
They admitted $750,000, which is the actual price.
$750,000 card. They weren't all going to drive off together into the sunset, and those fans knew it, but they knew that they could make it a little bit better, and they knew what their role was. And I think that's the advantage that AEW and NXT have over Raw and SmackDown, and I think that's what makes it a better show. There's going to be times like last night with NXT. I mean, NXT was a really good show. I thought it was a good show. There was nothing terrible about it or anything like that, but there were times where people were just sitting on their hands. They were exhausted, they were tired, they were whatever it was. That's going to be the case sometimes, but when it comes to the big stuff, the fans certainly can enhance it with how they respond.
This person says, last night my girlfriend walked into the room, took a quick glance at Sammy Guevara, and immediately stated, he's so annoying to me. And then she said a very bad thing, which I can't read here on the air. But
that's good.
Yes, he's the greatest because he is a heel that is so annoying, you just want to punch him. But you don't want to turn the channel. Because every week you want to see how is he going to be humiliated this week. This is the ultimate heel. This is not like Baron Corbin, who, granted, Baron Corbin is in a main event position and Sammy Guevara is just, he's a soldier in the main event group whose job is to just go out there and be annoying and get beat up. But, I don't think there's anybody on the AEW roster that could play the Sammy Guevara role in the inner circle better than Sammy. He is the greatest. And every single week, something happens and he gets humiliated. And it's like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. It never gets old. Every week I could watch this. He got DDT'd last night. Oh, no, he's way better than Six. People hated Six. Don't you remember X-Pac Heat?
But that's the thing. It turned into that, but when it was at its best, there's a guy like Sammy Guevara. Here's the thing with records. Sammy Guevara could be 0-558. He could face off against whoever the undefeated world champion of the roster is. There are still people that are going to want to believe and root extra hard for the guy to beat him just because of who he is. And I think, he can trail off in X-Pac Heat at some point, but he's got the good part of it right now.